Right, anything else on page 1? Page 2?
Page 2, third paragraph, starting with Mark. The last word, can you, instead of saying on hand, just say, said no appeal was filed. One had, I guess it had said.
Yeah, can be more specific there.
Yeah.
The last paragraph on that page where it says Mark Forgaze, where I said Margaret Costello asked when enforcement would begin for apparent violations. I was talking about the safety issues around traffic and the maximum occupancy.
Gotcha.
On the paragraph that underneath planning board member updates where it says John, I wonder if you want to set context there that indicates based on quotes from the select boards members.
I kind of assume everybody knows about that whole
Yeah, that makes sense.
meeting ahead of time.
Yeah, I just figure if somebody reads this 2 years from now,
Right.
they're like,
Yeah.
wow.
Okay, I'll just introduce it with a couple sentences.
All right.
Okay, in that next paragraph, 1, 2, 3, third line. Jesse said business will submit something for review once winter passes. Should it say the business will submit a report with a possible request for modification in the spring? Is that, I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the very next sentence on that, can you change very limited to overcapacity?
Yeah.
Good. Good.
All right. Page 3.
I think I have one more on page 2, sorry.
Sure.
Oh, no, never mind.
All right.
So on page 3, I did vote to authorize the memo, but the first line there should say that I moved. Oh, or am I on page 4? Sorry, that's for page 4.
No. On page 3, under White Pond Road, second paragraph. About in the middle of the paragraph, when I'm saying the planning board should make the property owners aware. Can you just change that to that based on the report from the town engineer, there still could be a small amount of runoff entering their property during heavy storm, during the quote from Sue's.
Right.
I think she said something, it would be temporary just during heavy storms. And then in the next page, it's the same issue at the top of the page. About the drainage, second line.
Right.
And then I guess get back to John's comment on the voted versus moved.
Mhm.
Oh, geez, yeah. Oh, that was from a motion that kind of got amended and it became like 3 minutes of discussion.
Yeah.
I think I copied and pasted things around.
So we didn't actually vote on that, is that?
No, we did,
No, we did.
but I
But in the
moved it
next
first.
page, it's saying we decided not to vote.
Wait, what?
I thought we voted on it.
Oh, wait. Oh, I think the next page you're talking about, that's referring to the Joanne Drive request for minor modification that wasn't moved up, that wasn't acted upon. The language was drafted, there was no vote. Is that what you're talking about?
No, this is the memo to the town administrator about the drain on One White Pond Road.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, the top is about the
Okay,
memo
the
to
top one.
Denise.
Okay, sorry.
And I
was
think
jumping ahead. Yeah,
the only thing we voted on related to Joanne Drive
There was a
was
minor.
that it was a minor modification. We
yeah,
we put off the other vote till tonight.
that's right. Okay, okay.
So under Joanne Drive, where it starts with Lori Clark, the second sentence, board members agreed that it does qualify as, you need as. And then I also had a comment about just tacking on, including something that we did have a discussion about. We actually discussed the trash that is left on that property to be conveyed. And we actually had a discussion about possibly requiring before like an occupancy. I mean, we had a discussion about before some kind of occupancy that area pretty soon in the process. I think that should be cleaned up so that nothing gets lost in the shuffle.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to call it trash or
Debris.
Debris.
junk or, yeah.
Well, however you want to word it, but I
Right.
think it's important because there is a
Mhm.
considerable amount on that property.
Yeah. Whatever term I think it was in the decision, so whatever term that was.
But didn't what we discussed was that the time frame wasn't in there and that we wanted to make sure that we kind of established a more definite time frame.
Yes.
Was it tied, just recalling, I think that would be required to convey the open land to the Concom, and then was the transfer of the conveyance to the Conservation Commission itself a condition of occupancy?
It is currently, yes.
It is a condition of occupancy. Okay,
So that makes it automatically a condition.
okay, yeah,
And then
Okay.
we debated, we drafted and agreed upon the 6th building permit at the time.
Right.
And then since we've put that on hold, which I can update the board on, but
okay.
yeah, that's where we're at.
So my point of all that is do we want to continue tying that to the 6th occupancy, or do we want to tie that to the 1st or 2nd occupancy so that gets taken care of sooner rather than later?
I wonder if that's a non-minute conversation.
Well, maybe in the minutes we did discuss it in the minutes, so just say that we discussed the issue and then we can discuss it at this meeting to get it into
Okay.
this week's.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Does that
All
work
right.
for you?
Any other comments on minutes? Any motion?
I move that we approve minutes of the August 17th meeting as amended.
I'll second.
All right, and we'll do roll call vote. Nancy, Meg,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
aye. All right, any comments on correspondence?
Yeah. The Jordan Mackey's modification plan. I don't know, I was counting tables and possible seats and it looked like a lot of tables. Did we ever get, I know we asked for the detail of the picnic tables to see how many would be seated there or could be seated there.
I mean, it said average party
Six
equals
four-person
4.
tables.
Hmm?
6 4-person tables is on the map, the plan.
So
That's right. We
Um,
don't
is,
have,
is the note at the top cut off?
Yeah,
Do we
that's
know what
the-
that
that's the-
says?
Yeah, I noticed that when I sent it out, that was the way I received it at least. So I don't know if,
Yeah, it says based on our experience during 2021, total outdoor seating will rarely exceed 20 persons at any time during the day. That's what I think it says.
And so he's interpreting the picnic tables as 4-person tables?
That's correct.
It says location of picnic tables on the lawn, average party equals 4.
Okay. Do you think only 4 people would sit at a picnic table? I don't know.
It might be more if somebody's got little kids, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I would think probably 4.
And then he had a note about, oh, total of 6, 2 or 6. He's got 8, total of 8 he's got 4 Adirondack
Right.
double chairs. So that would be 8, right?
Yep. So 32.
So I'm sorry, can someone
Okay.
remind me? I do not remember. What is the capacity limit?
35.
35 out,
Well,
Thank you.
42 for DEP, 35 outside for our decision.
right?
We did 35?
Yes.
Thank you. So he's got 6 times 4 is 24, plus 2, 4, 6, 8 in Adirondack
Okay.
chairs.
Right.
Okay.
He's got 3 to spare. And this isn't counting anything on patio seating, right?
Yeah, he's not planning to use the patio at all.
Yep.
He said-
Okay.
I had a question about the Adirondack chairs. If you're looking at this diagram, the 2 Adirondack chairs, like, aren't they right on the property line?
The ones in the back,
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna ask.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not real comfortable with that.
Well, we specifically said it had to be not like, I don't.
30
30
feet.
feet.
Do we have a setback? Yeah.
Yep.
From property line?
Yeah, you know, when Jordan gave us this, I responded to him, I said, look, I highlighted the decision, there's a lot more plan modifications to provide still.
Okay.
So, I didn't put it on the agenda, so I wasn't really expecting that we were necessarily gonna provide him feedback. I certainly can. I have the same comments, you know, there's some inconsistencies that I think he could shore up a little better.
Okay.
You know, I guess once we start seeing all of the plan modifications and get it on the agenda, the question is really, the question I would have, I guess, for the board is, does the board mind if there is seating spread out in other parts of the lot that weren't originally proposed, and specifically if they don't impact any abutting property owners? Because most of where he's putting these proposed seats are really kind of really off. Next to 117 is the abutter, and
Yeah.
out next to his well. So those are the kinds of things. But there's several other plan modifications. I thought it would be better to see them all together and talk.
I think so too. Yeah, yeah. I don't mind them spread out. It's just that we might get feedback from some of the abutters if it's right up against the fence.
Yeah, I think we
On the
need
other
to,
side,
I mean,
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
I thought we had said there needed to be a certain amount of buffer. And so I guess we would just want to make sure, we want to see that.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, any other comments on correspondence?
I don't see it listed, but it was in our packet. Or maybe it's in here, the letter from Phil Mosley
Hmm.
Yeah.
about the fence
Mhm.
in Lower Village. Do we have funds available for that?
I'm going to talk to Denise about it and see if she wants to use any leftover funding from the project,
Okay,
or whether or not we want to do something separate. I've been all along pressing for doing whatever it takes to get them reinstalled.
okay,
And the highway superintendent wasn't thrilled about it. We talked more about it. We met Phil on site. We walked it, and we found a good compromise in terms of the sections that can go back in. And there's one section that can't go in because it's where the where one of the pipes goes under the ground. So we talked about where we put that section instead.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a matter of figuring out how town administrator wants to handle.
Curiosity question. What was he upset about, the labor being expected of him, or that funds might come out of his, like, what was he not happy about?
Oh, he just wanted to make sure, you know, I mean, anytime anything's proposed, he always wants to, which I don't blame him, always wants to bring out the on the ground impact of certain
Right.
installations. Okay, here's what it's going to take my guys to maintain it, to mow around it. You know, we had that discussion. The town administrator said, yeah, I get it, but some things, you know, are going to just be more work. And this is something that we committed to. And yeah, it's going to be more work, but we're going to do it anyway. So, you know, I think there's always this continuum of work versus aesthetic, and we're working all that out.
Yeah.
So I wonder if those posts could be considered historic and they might be paid for through CPC funds.
They weren't historic. We bought them new, didn't we?
We
Back with
did
the Lower Village Committee, yeah.
up in
They're less
Maine.
than 15 years old.
Yeah.
They look historic.
Okay, they're not.
That's the
historic.
point.
Yeah.
It was a
Hey,
good
never
thought.
So did a good job getting them to look historic, if John thought they were historic.
And we saved all the money the first time by Phil doing it with, what's his name? Husband, who used to be on the board with you guys. Remember?
Oh, Russ.
Kathleen's husband,
Yeah,
Russ
Russ
Willis,
Willis.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll keep you posted as that
Okay.
as we get that squared away.
All right,
I have one.
sure.
The memo to the town administrator on the status of the sign bylaws. So where do we stand with the zoning consultant? I'm just curious on hearing back. Do they have a deadline to respond?
Yeah, Malcolm and I are meeting with them on the 31st of August, a week from today. We're gonna talk about their draft report, some of their draft recommendations, and give them some initial feedback, talk about what we'd like the follow-up presentation to look like and accomplish. And then we're gonna set a time later in September to come before the planning board.
Okay, good. All right, that's all I was wondering.
All right, any other comments on correspondence? All right, any public input? Okay. Any planning board member updates?
So I'll just add that you've probably seen it, but there was a letter to the editor about the CPC that was written by, I think, all of the former and current CPC chair people. And I think it was a nice letter as a counterpoint, I'll say, to what was published the week before.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a nice letter.
It was really factual.
It's good. I haven't seen it. I'm not getting my paper right now. I don't know where it's going.
Do you have to
It's
renew
it's part of the slowdown
subscription?
in the postal system. Newspapers don't go.
All right. Any other planning board member updates? All right, Jesse.
All right, so I'll just pick up where I left off there. That regarding that zoning discussion, we're gonna schedule that forum, and I think the plan is to invite the Economic Development Commission and the Lower Village Revitalization Subcommittee. So it'll be a joint boards meeting. We'll have the presentation. We'll have a chance to then make some comments, hear about their case studies that they reviewed, and I think that they're willing to kind of, you know, take some feedback on their final recommendations, and then they'll submit after that. So we are getting close now. As soon as we get that report through this fall and winter, Malcolm and I are going to take that and try to digest it and put it back through our initial draft that Valerie and I had worked on, and hopefully we'll get to a good starting place to continue the discussion. So
And
that
I
will
think-
probably, go ahead.
And once we have that, I think we'll want to put something on our agenda regarding the sign,
Right.
short-term sign discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's the next update I wanted to provide. It's
Jesse,
likely,
can we back up just
Oh,
one
sorry.
point? You said the public forum and you mentioned a couple of committees that you're inviting. We would invite. Are we
Yeah.
inviting all boards and committees? And if not, did you mention the selectmen because they should?
yeah, I mean, I haven't
think
done
neither.
anything formal as it was, but I know that we could certainly invite the selectmen, but I know there's a few other committees that have been
Yeah.
very interested in what happens, so. But yeah.
And I
certainly.
just don't know if there's anything we can do about fairness and and how everything gets enforced. I know, and I'm sorry, Lenny just grabs me every time I'm at the plaza. But like there's 11 signs at Ken's Liquors, internally illuminated, all beer brands. And Colonial's got the open sign, and now he's gonna start paying fines while Colonial's, the other place has 11 signs up,
Actually, right as I was leaving today, Frank Ramsbottom, new building commissioner, stopped me to say he went around today. He took photographs of all internally illuminated signs in Stow business districts and has met with many of those business owners and has sent enforcement letters. So the bylaw is being enforced uniformly as of today.
Okay, I mean, I hate to be the enforcer and cause all the pain, but it should at least be fair,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, okay, thank you. So on that note, I'm almost positive that the Economic Development Commission is going to be asking Malcolm and I to help them draft out a quick fix, probably, Lori, what you were thinking here, which is a carve out for some immediate relief while the town works on a bigger overhaul. So it might be that that comes through from the EDIC, similar timetable as to when you'd be wanting to look at it anyway. And if that's the case, great. But just as a heads up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think based on our prior conversation, and everyone can chime in if they agree or don't agree, but we were hoping to do some sort of short term for this fall town meeting.
yeah. Yeah, I think we need to.
Yeah.
And okay, so that will be going. We'll continue to bring each meeting, any meeting that's not stacked with like public hearings or anything. We're going to try to reserve some space for working discussions. We've got a lot of different zoning. I'd like to try to get a few things in front of the board prior to the lower village stuff really ramping up so that we can kind of get them out of the way, feel good about them if we want to bring them to town meeting, and just kind of put them in the queue and so that they're ready and they've been reviewed. So we'll talk about that. For instance, one that I've been working on and I wanted to bring forward was the amendments to the sidewalk section of the special permit in the zoning bylaw, where the board finds themselves tying themselves into pretzels trying to figure out how to implement and enforce that side of that bylaw. I wanted to try to clarify that a little bit. So those are the kinds of things that we wanted to see if we could discuss. I have an RFP in draft format for town center for the conceptual plans, and I'll share those with the board. I'm going to share it with the Complete Streets Committee on Thursday. And so hopefully as we get through September, we can get that ready to get out there. I know the planning board had said that they wanted to see it, and I know the Complete Streets Committee does too. So yeah, so September, October going out for bid, that would be fine by me. That would be good timing actually. And then I spoke with Bruce Wheeler of Habitat. He looked at and watched the energy presentation that Mike and Arnie gave to the planning board. Thought it was really interesting, and he's following up and he'll be discussing with them. So
That's exciting.
Continues, yeah.
Right.
And I'm going to be drafting a letter provided the board is on board, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but something to DHCD and copying our local legislative delegation to basically say, we're making some really good progress on housing in Stow, and we would like the regulations that come out for housing choice to have some flexibility for towns like Stow to meet the regulations without having to simply create these by right multifamily districts. Because we already are creating affordable housing at a higher rate than I would say, a lot of towns are. So I'm basically just kind of getting it out there that we want them to know that we're making progress and we don't really want to be penalized because we're not making it in the right way.
That's great.
Good. Yeah.
So you'll be seeing that. Last thing here, let me see. We do know, we don't have a lot of details, but we know Bose is continuing to move forward with a purchase and sale agreement with a place called the Masters Academy, which is a school that is focused on sports. And we don't yet know if it's going to be for-profit or nonprofit. So we don't yet know if it is going to be a Dover protected use or if it is going to be something subject to a zoning change. So if it,
Jesse, do you know if they're aware that it would require a zoning change?
yes.
And is it something that should be considered if we have a special town meeting?
I've been
I don't know what
talking
their
about this.
timing is, yeah.
I've been kind of going back and forth about this, and I've talked with folks and with the town administrator and others. They're aware. We're just we're letting them go. There are some implications regardless of which direction they go in.
Right.
And
is it a true school? Meaning it qualifies for Dover?
Academics.
The consultants that they've brought on board, from what I have learned, is they have these consultants that have worked on a similar school in Florida, which is a for-profit school. So this is not your typical Dover protected educational use.
I gotcha.
Think about it.
It sounds like it's probably like a private residential school.
Yep, I think that's.
Yeah, like a Groton School, Lawrence Academy, maybe even more focused on sports.
Yeah.
Is there other one in Florida and the IMG school by any chance? Did you hear?
Yes.
Oh, that's hugely successful. The most well-known sports academy in the country.
That sounds very familiar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that means they're really legit. That would be solvent, really good for Stow.
So
There's
we'll find out more, but that's kind of where we are.
So refresh my brain, what ramifications would it have for zoning?
Well, we just need to know what, regardless of what use it is and what goes in there, is it going to be a Dover protected use? Meaning, is it going to be a nonprofit charitable organization, educational organization, religious organization, or is it going to be something that is an allowed use under our industrial district? Or is it going to be something that would require a zoning change to go in? So there's 3 different avenues.
So we would have to change the zoning to, like, I'm surprised that a school is not included under an industrial zoning. I mean.
Yeah, only residential. Which is, I was surprised.
What if it's a residential school, which is what their other one is?
It's
they would have-
still not an allowed use in the
Huh.
industrial district, according to our bylaw anyway.
Yeah, it's the IMG school that Nancy's talking about says elite academics and athletics boarding school.
Well, so if it was a Dover protected, said hypothetically, how would that affect us as a town?
Tax rolls.
Could have some tax implications. We just don't know yet, and that's why I'm not putting a ton into this, because I obviously can't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to put a lot of homework into
Yeah.
trying to prepare for a certain scenario, knowing that it could totally fall through and we could be looking at something else. Because if you recall,
Exactly.
at one time we were talking about flex industrial
Amazon.
R&D. we were
Yeah.
talking about all these different uses. So this is the
Yeah, you
latest.
just want to wait until we really know what
Yeah.
it is.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, FYI, IMG is grades 6 through 12, so they are a real school.
Right.
They may be more than that, and
Yeah.
they may be for profit, but they are.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Are they a
Where-
residential school or?
Yeah, they have it's a
Yeah.
boarding school.
they're like a Lawrence Academy,
Yeah.
but with the top sports program.
Yeah,
Right.
So where was this? At the Bose property?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I can see how that property would lend itself to that.
Yeah.
It's
And
like a
it's great
campus.
for
I mean,
fields.
when you're back there, it feels like a campus.
And there's
Right.
all that open land for fields
Right.
and things.
Yeah.
And it's flat.
Yep.
So yeah, so we'll find, we'll see what happens. We'll see if all that holds and that indeed is the use that they're proposing and that's still the person that they're looking at or the firm that they're looking at. We don't know. So that's the latest there though, just so, because I know I've gotten a lot of questions.
That's cool.
Better than Amazon trucks rolling.
I
in
was
and
just
out.
about to say.
And you could work
And-
out deals to use the fields at off times for the town. There could be things.
Well, I assume Amazon's not interested anymore because they just put a facility up in Littleton, right on, right next to Route 2 up Liberty Square Road.
And that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they're busting the chops in Boston too, on around the Southeast Expressway there. Like they want that land there.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean, to me, I know I keep saying this, but it's not just trucks, it's gonna be drones.
Yeah.
And we have to think about that every time we think about any kind of the impact of all that.
Mhm.
Last thing, I will probably have to jump off for a selectmen's meeting later, so we'll see if we're all finished by the time that comes. But other than that, our schedule going forward here is September 14th and the 21st for September.
So you mean after
Big
tonight,
break.
we're not meeting till September 14th?
That's correct.
Okay.
The 21st. I have the 28th too, did we?
Yeah, I think the 28th as well. So it's those last 3 weeks in September.
Okay, and I'm not here the 14th.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's all I got.
All right. So first up for us is the Halleck Point decision. Let's see. Hold on, I lost it somehow.
So can I ask one more time? I keep thinking about if there's anything in the plan that we put together that we're losing because we're rescinding this. And one other thought I had over the week was that there are going to be 2 houses built on that road that weren't there before. And I think I asked earlier and said that the driveway was going to be off the existing road.
Mhm.
And I don't remember if in the original decisions, did we talked a lot about utilities and whether they'd be buried underground with the road or not. And so does that have any effect on those 2 houses that are going to be built on those 2 lots by the main road? And how the utilities need to be set up?
I don't think so, because they're basically A&R lots. So,
I don't know, to be honest. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. But I don't think, even so, I don't know if this subdivision plan could. It's hard for me to imagine this subdivision plan being amended to still have authority over the A&R lots.
no, yeah,
Because they are A&R lots.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
A&R lots and that there's
Yeah.
no formal subdivision. change.
Okay, so you're saying because it's not a subdivision anymore, that
Right.
we don't have some mechanism to specify if we wanted the utilities done a certain way.
Yeah,
Right,
They haven't created new frontage in the way that the
Right,
previous
right.
plan.
Okay.
right.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, that is something that we can certainly talk with the developer about, and I can bring up with Kathy as well.
Yeah.
Well,
And
isn't the
We could
developer
encourage
Chuck?
it.
Isn't the developer Chuck, right? Chuck
Yep.
Black,
mhm.
yeah.
It's not often that I see new units go in with above ground.
I was just
Yeah.
about to say,
Yeah,
So that would surprise me. I know that obviously during our discussions, there was a push to keep them above ground because there was some
Mhm.
above ground already there. So
but that
that,
was from the applicant.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
that's something that, I'll bring that up with Kathy.
And you're right, very few new houses are above
Right.
ground.
right.
Okay. So with that, we have this,
So, can I just say something? Is that my recollection was that those two houses back there that were existing had above ground utilities. So we were gonna make them go underground because we were gonna have to run the distribution line all the way down to the end of the property. But now we are not gonna do that because
Correct.
of those two houses. So that is something that we got to,
correct, so the existing houses will remain
Just as they are,
is.
yeah.
I think we're saying the two A&R lots will hopefully be underground.
right, but I'm just thinking about having overhead and underground going there. I'm just wondering how the power company would coordinate that.
Well,
I mean, we
wouldn't
have
just-
that on my street. I can speak to it because my house is newer on Bradley Lane than others. And so most of the people on Bradley Lane have above ground. And then there's a couple of new houses that have below ground.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think they just go to the nearest pole.
Right.
And from there, they go
Yeah.
down. and
That's
if there's a
exactly
pole
right.
there, go underground to the. power
Okay.
station, yeah.
Just wanted to know. Thanks.
All right. So getting back to the decision as drafted, it's fairly short. So I guess if you have any comments, want to call them out.
I do, first page, it's referring to Robert Dawes LLC as the applicant, and shouldn't it be Stow Conservation Commission?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank-
And then just under item 4 and on the footer, and up above, you have August 17th, it should be the 24th,
Thanks.
the title and the board action and the footer. Oh, and there was one other thing. Oh, probably take out Max reference under board action also, because we had 5 members present.
Okay.
All I got.
All right. Anyone else?
I have a curiosity question. Was notice required to be sent to all the other abutters for this rescission?
This was noticed, you're right, yep. So butters list and everything, yeah.
I wish I'd had the money to buy these 2 lots and donate the land.
No,
That would be awesome.
wouldn't it?
Well, when I won the max facts, I was thinking about when I won it, I thought, well, that would be one thing I could really fill in. That would make a difference. But anyway,
How much did we sell them for?
that's what I was just thinking. I think it's like 600, right?
Something.
180, something like that.
I think they were like 310 a piece, something.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
what I
know.
thought. Yeah,
I don't recall, but they
they
weren't
were
cheap.
pricey. Yeah.
310 a piece, that's a good chunk of change.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't recall exactly what it was, but it was high.
I get why we had to do it, but I wish that we didn't have to have like 1.5 acre lots there either. Because it's just, it asked for a McMansion.
Well, given
Yeah.
what Chuck is asking for prices on Joanne, I'm sure he thinks he's gonna get a couple of the same
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
$1 million.
wow.
Million
Crazy.
plus they were listed, Joanne's listed for right now.
I saw
Yeah.
that.
Unbelievable.
What is
Yeah.
it?
Over $1 million
Million plus.
for to buy a house on Joanne Drive.
Yeah, we always were waiting to figure out when Stow would become a regular $1 million+ community, and we're there.
That's what Hiley Brook is too.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, even that house on Lane's End, the first house on Lane's End there sold for $965.
I saw that
Whew.
in no time.
Oh yeah, in hours. So, all right, any other comments on the rescission? All right, if not, I guess I'll look for a motion.
I move that we approve the rescission of the Hallocks Point definitive subdivision plan, erosion control special permit, inclusion of affordable housing special permit and site plan approval. As amended, as drafted and amended.
Correct.
Can I just
second.
add one thing? I'm sorry.
That was
Can I
long
just
enough.
make one comment? I'm just wondering, does it make sense to just to note the associated restrictive covenant?
Oh, yes, and the associated restrictive covenants. And to release the associated
Perfect.
restricted covenants. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that second.
Any other discussion? If not, we will take a roll call vote. So John,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Meg,
Aye.
Nancy,
I,
and I. All right. With that out of the way, the remaining part of the meeting, we need to get back to the AN rules and regs. So hold on one second. Closing some stuff. All right. Okay, so I think we left off. Actually, Jesse, why don't you just tell me where we left off?
So I don't recall if I've made all the changes, so we're just going to start where we left off exactly. We're at page 32, 3.26. We were right at the doorstep of the cottage dwelling design standards. I'm sorry, 3.25. 25, yep.
Wait, what page?
That can't be 32.
It was page,
25,
what page do you have?
25.
25.
3.25 is on page 25.
Yeah,
You probably, you guys probably is different because you probably updated it since our
Yeah.
last.
hold
Yeah.
on. I gotta
Yeah.
go find the right one.
me too.
It was, I gotta go, actually, so it would have been the last meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, in the one that I have, which was the one from last meeting, section 3.26 is at the bottom of page 26.
Okay,
Yeah.
So, all right, I have the one from the other meeting and I'm sorry, what section?
3.26. 2.6 at the bottom of page 26. That starts the cottage dwelling design standards.
Okay. And I don't know, I guess, Jesse, did you not want us to work off the last?
I don't, I know there's a couple of things swirling around out there, probably because I accepted a bunch of the changes and got rid of some of those crossouts, but nothing has changed from 3.26 on, so.
Okay, so we
Okay.
can use
Some
it.
numbers, we might get a little confused because of numbering, but the content should all be the same.
Okay.
And so all I'll say as we get going here is there was correspondence in there. I know Meg, you had provided some thoughts and that we included that in the packet. And a lot of that pertained to these sections we're going to be talking about here.
Okay. All right, so
Tell me again what page, guys?
20 at the bottom of 26, section
Got it.
3.26.
Okay,
So if you recall, just to give you some context, these are all of the standards that the specific design standards that we agreed should come out of the bylaw because of their specificity, and we wanted to
Right.
retain the right to waive them.
Right, so you pretty much just moved them in here.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. I tailored them a little bit and made some changes to make it all work, but yeah, essentially it.
So I do have a comment, not exactly sure which part of this cottage dwelling area it should go in, but I wonder if we want to tighten up the definition of the relationship between the cottage dwelling and the common area. Because right now it says that the cottage dwelling will face the common area, but I don't believe it says that it will abut it. So that might allow people to do like having the cottages staggered and some of them a little farther back with a walkway that goes to them, or, you know, common walkways that go, and I'm not sure we want that. So there might be actually just a few words to put in there to make sure that the dwellings actually abut or adjacent to the common area, so that it really is the common area with all the cottage dwellings around it.
And it basically, the way you describe it, John, means that if they want additional cottage units, they have to build an additional common area for those units.
Right.
Yeah,
or
Make it bigger.
expand.
Letter
Yeah.
B on the next page does address this. Cottage dwelling common areas shall have dwelling units abutting at least two sides. The top of
That's
27.
different. It's
yeah, that's,
not the same. That's what I'm saying.
So the intent was for basically the front door to face the open land, is that what you're
Right.
saying? John?
And
Yeah,
that's in
Yeah.
there.
yeah,
so,
I'm saying that you could have some of the cottage dwellings right adjacent to the common area, and you could have some farther back where there's a walkway.
yeah, so
goes-
it's
still
facing it, but
facing
it's
it,
like,
but it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
on the common area.
yeah.
so you
That's
could
the point.
actually, right, so you could do B, but still have units that are not on the common.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. We want to
Yeah,
tighten that up. A little bit.
and according to our language, as long as it's facing the direction of the common, it
Yeah.
would
It's
qualify.
okay. Right.
If you
Good
can see it
point.
past the buildings in front of you.
Right.
So you're saying the face of the building, well,
Well,
the
We're
unit
basically
shall
saying that
abut
the
and-
face-
It should abut and face the,
The front of the cottage dwellings should abut
and face.
and face the common.
Okay.
Area without
Area.
obstruction, you could say.
yeah, that's true too.
Playing devil's advocate, what's the frontage that people care about? If developer wants to squeeze many, could that be okay?
Say that again? If somebody wanted to do what?
If a developer desired to squeeze many onto that frontage that they're now required to comply with,
Yeah, I don't know, is there a
Repair.
limit?
do we care about the frontage on that? Whether it's 5 feet or 50 feet or what?
Hmm.
It needs to be the front of the unit. Maybe has to be specified.
So Mark, I'm not sure what you're,
I'm not following you
What I'm
either.
hypothetically thinking of is you could have still a variety of fronting on the common. You sort of have sort of front units and back units, and they do have land and their unit
Oh.
partially fronting on it.
I
And
see.
that could be fine, or maybe not. I'm just quizzing if people care one way or another.
You're saying, hey, if they're staggered and somebody only has 5 feet on the,
Hmm.
Oh, I see.
which I don't think that was the intention,
No.
but I think these discussions are good to get the language to what we actually intended to be.
Right.
So is it intended the entire front of the dwelling unit front? I mean, face the open land?
Of
Yeah,
that,
so-
Is that, yeah,
I mean, that's how we
Based on the-
picture it, right?
yeah.
that's how we pictured it, and I
Yeah,
think what
yeah.
we're saying is if you go with that, then, you know, if they make the common area a rectangle and then there's houses all along the rectangle, it basically means they have to create another common area if they want to have more units that can fit on that rectangle, which I think is our
Right.
intention.
Right,
Right.
I agree, I
You're
agree.
not gonna squeeze some in by the smaller side of a house and have their side door open out to it with a sidewalk, you
Right.
know?
No, it has to, if you look at the cottage dwelling building standards, the porch
Front
has
porch.
to be oriented toward the common open land. I think the design here kind of pushes us in that direction, so, I mean, if we want the belt and suspenders approach and we want to say something like, each dwelling unit should have, an equal amount of frontage along the common area as practicable, or something like that, just to basically say,
Mhm.
the intent is that everybody should have a relatively equal amount of space.
So I have a question, and tell me if this is in here, I'm not sure. So I come out my front porch and I'm in a cottage dwelling. And I am on my front porch and I come out, am I gonna be on the sidewalk and then the common area is something that I access in the
Mhm.
middle? Like I am not gonna have any open space in front of my porch, correct? The only open space I'm gonna have is the sidewalk and then the access to the common area.
I mean, you may have a little bit of a,
Landscaping,
It can be
Border.
a lot of different things. It could be a walkway to another shared walkway. It could be more wooded. It could be cleared and then landscaped. It could be open grass. Like we're not really saying what it needs to be. Frankly, I was hoping that the applicants, their landscape architects and others would propose something that was interesting and
Mhm.
creative, but
like
That-
at
that's-
Villages, when they front onto that common,
Right.
at Villages at Stow, they do have a little postage stamp of lawn and a landscape border in front of each unit
Yeah,
before the big common area,
yeah, they have the little porch and a little grass area, the sidewalk.
a
and-
little walk
Yeah.
out.
but the big difference is they have a road, right?
they have a road in front of their house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
This
Right.
would be a direct fronting onto a common area.
Common
All the
area.
examples that I've seen typically have kind of a meandering walkway that you can access your home from the front, you can access it from the garage in the back. But there is that shared pedestrian space out in the front with no vehicles.
Good.
And I think this specifically says you cannot put a fence in the front yard to try to wall off your space.
Okay.
that's
good.
important. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so then to close out this point, I don't know what the language is, but we're basically saying we want the front of the cottages to face and abut
Abut.
or be it, yeah, to the common area.
So letter D, Jesse, so we're changing this, right? Because it says fencing and screening may be used to delineate private yards.
However, fencing for screening purposes shall not be placed between cottage dwellings and the shared dwelling area. So if you have a backyard that you want to fence in,
Okay,
you can do
Yeah.
that.
all right. Or
Um,
maybe between the one next door on the side. Okay,
Exactly, yeah.
sorry.
And I thought Nancy's point about, when we spell it out specifically that the front of the cottage dwelling should abut and face the common area without obstruction. I think we
Yeah.
ought to re-emphasize that once
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, anything on else on page 27?
I'm wondering, Lori, what you were saying earlier is that if people wanted to put more cottages, they'd have to have another common space, but I don't think is there a limit on how many cottages can go around a common space? I mean, if you just kept making there is a incremental add to the common space for every cottage that's by it.
Right.
Well, I don't know what's the trade-off between creating another common space and just making a bigger, maybe a longer, narrower place with more cottages. And do we want to limit the size of a cottage neighborhood somehow?
I guess that's kind of my question of if they have 2 squares and they put houses around each, that's kind of, you could consider that 2 cottage neighborhoods
Right.
versus one giant square and kind of, I don't, the question is,
Hmm. What were we envisioning?
yeah,
It might lose its quaintness if it's too large.
Too big.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Right.
then you have
Yeah.
like a really long,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it probably depends on what their whole design aesthetic is, because that would be more of like a town common rather than a common area.
Yeah.
I probably would imagine that the 18, I think we have an 18 unit maximum, that they would probably be designed in longer strips and ribbons of open land, similar to what we've seen in other examples. And it probably depends on the topography too, but I mean, if it did,
Yeah. So if we limit the number of units, then
limited to 18.
yeah, to 18.
then it probably means they'll build one.
Yeah. Is 18 the right number?
It's tough. I mean, you saw what they submitted last time. They did submit us
Yeah. Yeah.
schematic, and it was not one big open space. It was a
Mhm.
series of alleys.
A
and
series
small
of them.
open
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
So I had a question about 3.26.4. I get that are we required to calculate a minimum of 2 parking spaces per cottage? Is that what the parking requirements are for the state? Or do we really want to say this? Do we want to say a maximum of 2 parking spaces?
We could change it to a maximum, yeah.
I would be happy with that. But this is for the purpose of calculations, right? We're not saying that
I thought so.
each unit has to have their own parking right there at their spot.
Right, I
We're
mean, if
just
you look at-
calculating.
If you look at what Habitat said last time they were here, they were talking about common parking areas for additional spaces, like the visitors area,
But you
basically.
need guest parking, right? Right.
Yeah. No, I think this says, as written, it's expected that each unit would have 2 parking spaces. So if we wanted to change that to maximum, I'm told that's I wouldn't want to see more than 2, certainly.
Okay, good.
Just from a design standpoint, but I think, yeah, so.
Do they have
Then
more
where
when
are
they,
we addressing potential overflow parking?
Yeah, because somebody might have a party,
Party.
and if they're only limited to 2 spaces, where do they, I guess, park?
An additional
We have 15
15%,
additional
Oh, okay.
an additional
in that
15% of total.
A. Yeah,
and the few that will have the garages, they park in the garage and there's still driveway space, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's for guests or additional resident cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
I recall for the Ridgewood hearings, there were complaints about lack of parking for holiday events like Thanksgiving or,
That's what I'm
Similar.
thinking. That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
and the complaints were related to actually the town meeting hall. What is the name of the thing down by the,
Clubhouse, yeah.
yeah,
Clubhouse, the communities building.
well, actually, no, compared to the, next to the Stow Center, where Bill Roop had been a developer there and they're.
Oh, meeting house.
Meeting
Meeting
house.
house and
Meeting house,
Faxon Farm,
correct.
yeah.
That's,
So-
that, a little grumpiness about if there's an event, it could be challenging for people.
but see, I mean, these people live here. I mean, just leave your car at home and walk down to the party. It is like, why do we have to provide parking? Which means, impervious surfaces and just, a lot more cars going in and out. I mean, I don't get why. I don't put a whole lot of credence in somebody complaining because everybody in the whole development can't drive their car down to the party.
But
And
it's
there's
not
no
just
parking.
about people
Guests
who live
coming
there.
in.
If people have 2 or 3 children that are married and have kids, just having a family get together ends up being more than, many cars.
All during the pandemic, there was probably 7 or 8 of us that met oftentimes at Ridgewood in somebody's backyard. Now that was 6 cars that were parked comfortably in front of one unit, and that was no problem whatsoever. I mean, we just parked up and you had to walk a little ways, but I don't get what the big deal is.
Right, but right now we're saying there will be nowhere to park in front of the unit. The only parking that there will be the 2 spaces for the car in the back. And then
They'll
depending
probably
on
be
how
full.
close they are together, there will be nowhere to park on the road.
So how do you have guests?
Perhaps the larger question, what if 20% of the population or 10% has 3 car visitors from afar? Occasionally, recognizing this is not a problem that happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like the occasional resident, a single resident might have an occasional, like a Christmas party or something.
Yeah,
Just
Again,
right
not
after
even forget
parking.
about a big
Yeah.
party, just trying to have 3 children in their families, you're gonna have a problem.
what about
So-
accommodating contractors and service trucks and people coming to your house? Are they parking in the street?
They would probably use the alley.
What street?
Yeah.
Hmm,
Now,
okay.
so are we saying that is the board saying that they'd like to see more than 15% be designated for guests?
No, I guess I'm trying to understand what this section says. It says 2 per cottage, and then where it says an additional 15%. So are we basically adding up how many houses times 2 times
Plus
15%?
Yeah, exactly. So if it's 10 units, 20 spaces, 15% of 20. So it's only a
And-
couple extra spaces.
It's only 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot.
I can see people fighting over them or putting upside down trash cans in them in the winter,
In a way.
once they're shoveled out.
I know they fight over parking spaces at Plantation.
Mhm.
And probably a lot of them don't have cars.
Yeah,
Are parking spaces along the road kind of, or are the special visitors spots in Plantation?
any of them, it seems.
At Plantation, there's parking spaces along, like right in front of the units.
Yep.
And then there's a couple of guest parking areas.
So it's slightly scarce if there are a lot of guests that show up to the whole complex.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if there's just a few guests, I deliver Meals on Wheels there and I often cannot park anywhere
Yeah.
but in the active roadway. Also, I was thinking, what about handicap spaces? That'll take up space. Is there an allotment that has to be included? Especially if it's
Well-
targeted older?
Well, they'll each have their driveway though.
Yep.
Yeah,
And those
I guess
will, they'll have to be handicap accessible. I mean, the garages will have to be of
Yeah.
a size where
Yeah.
somebody can fit a wheelchair in it.
I'm just thinking at Meeting House and at Plantation, there are, it seems public handicap accessible spots. Well,
Would you rather it said an additional spaces shall be designated for guests not to exceed a percentage rather than a minimum of 15 to say,
Do we know, I guess, what are we basing these numbers on? Do we, like, I have no expertise.
Yeah.
yeah.
pretty much-
So
That's
these
where
are-
I'm struggling. Yeah.
So
So
this particular number, the 15% came from a project in Littleton where they've so far developed two cottage dwelling developments. And they use the 15% number.
And how long have they been there? Or,
Those projects, I think one is still underway. So it's new. It's been in the past few years.
yeah.
So
I'd
we
like
don't-
to, s-
We haven't
Are
gotten
you
any
guys-
feedback from them.
what about the one in Concord? That's been there a while now. I
do you mean the
wonder.
one on 2A? That's
Concord
just off-
Riverwalk.
Riverwalk.
We can look at Riverwalk. There's
Yeah,
some
that's
good
been
examples.
there a while, so we
Mhm.
could look at what they have, what their bylaw says or in regulations say for parking, and
They have a
we
lot of
could
parking.
probably get a feel from their planning office if there's complaints on whether or not it's adequate.
Okay.
If you
And
go up from the Rotary in Concord and go up 2A, there's that one on the left that has homes that looks like villages at Stow, and I think something's called something Farm Road, whatever, on the left. We went to a party over there and each house just had their own two spots at the driveway. Then there was designated guest parking away from the units that you went and parked at and walked to wherever you were going. And we had to do that, and they seem to have ownership of guest spots. They had this option, because then they worked out with all their neighbors to use their spots, and it was all, you owned guest spots or you purchased them or something.
Huh.
But it was
Hmm.
set away from the common area and the cottages.
Right. There are two places that I go to consistently. One over in Lancaster, and the same thing is that you have to park in the visitor parking spots, and you walk 50 feet, 100 feet.
Yeah, that's
And then I
fine.
went,
Yeah.
and then I went to the new ones, the Bluebird Lane in Littleton that is still under construction there. And that's what they did, is they used, there was probably, I don't know, 12 cars there. And so they used the two that they had and then their neighbors too. And then we used the visitor parking and it worked out fine.
Mhm.
I mean, condo complexes actually do this well, meaning have
Yeah.
only spaces in front of the condo, but then have visitor
Mhm.
spaces.
Plus, you know what, these are tight enough geographically areas where, if I'm having a party, all my neighbors are going to know that I'm having a party, so it doesn't seem, it's more like community building rather than owning parking spots, I think.
You're right, Meg. Even here where I live, I've got hardly any parking. I don't even have frontage on the road, but when I do have a party, I just call my neighbors, hey, I'm gonna have a bunch of cars. You mind if we can park in y'all your parking spot, so I line up a couple of neighbors to let us use their parking lot.
All right,
Driveway, I
so
should say, not parking lot.
Well, you live next to Collins. I guess you're using. their driveway.
Yeah.
I think it's so, I guess, where are we landing? Are people thinking that the houses themselves should only have 2 designated parking spaces, but that there should be guest parking areas that, and I think the question is we don't really know what the right number is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
do
start
some
out with
research.
2 per unit, and then we just have to do a little more research on what to do about guest parking.
Yep, I am sure there is specific
Yeah,
guidance on this.
yeah.
So we'll take another look.
Okay. All right, let's go on to page 28.
Moving right along.
I feel like I'm taking a class.
Yeah.
So now that we're saying we want guest parking area, C basically says it's gonna be located in clusters, but not more than clusters of 4.
So what this is essentially saying is that a minimum of 2 spaces, then this is pretty common for a lot of cottage dwelling bylaws.
Mhm.
A minimum of 2 spaces should be provided for each cottage. However, some of these are developed in a way where you can do shared surface parking instead. So there are some developments where, I think even the one in Bolton is like this, where you pull into a small little parking lot and everybody parks in one area and then you walk to your home from there. Similar to, like, I hate to use the term but an apartment complex.
So I think the only confusing part is what is the difference then between this and visitor parking area?
These would be the total number of shared surface parking areas. The intent is that they would match the required number that you had to provide for each unit.
And
Oh,
if
so
we're
instead of
saying-
having,
if we're saying the additional guest areas are separate from this,
Yes.
okay.
So Jesse, not to be a pain in the butt, so you're saying you went back to saying a minimum of 2 parking spaces per cottage?
What does it say in the version you have?
Minimum.
Well, it says minimum, and I thought that we discussed that we were gonna say maximum.
We did discuss it. I guess I just didn't know if that's where the board had landed. I'm happy
Okay,
to do
that's
it.
what I'm asking you to
Okay.
clarify.
Where are people's thoughts on that?
Well, one thought is that I would suspect that a developer is only going to put in the smallest number of parking places they can. And that they think is marketable. But they're not going to be putting extra parking places in because it costs money for them. So I don't know that we have to cap it.
And would we really want 1? If we say maximum, it basically implies it can be lower, meaning 0 or 1.
So
Mhm.
I opt for single car garage. Why do I need any more than my parking spot in the garage and then 1 or 2 cars behind me in my driveway? I mean, why would I want more than that?
So could we tie it? I mean, we should leave it open so that if the developer wants to put in a 1-car garage, that they shouldn't need then the 2 parking places. Maybe they only need 1 additional parking place. So maybe this can be said, like a minimum number of 1 parking place per garage bay.
Or just keep it at
2.
maximum of 2.
Yeah.
And then they can put in
Well,
1 if
that's
they
true.
want, but maximum is maximum.
But when we say maximum, it means they can do 0. I just want to be clear.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so
if they think they can sell a unit with no parking places.
I
I don't
Does
think
the
they have.
parking number include the indoor garage space?
I don't think so.
Mhm.
But
It does.
Yeah,
Oh,
So they could turn in a curb cut from the street directly into their garage and not have a driveway.
right. Ah,
And whatever we decide on that one is going to impact the number of guest parking because they're gonna add up how many they have and only take 15% of it. So I just,
yeah, well, we're gonna.
Yeah, we need to think this out.
So that wasn't clear to me that the parking places included the garage. So maybe it makes sense to make this a little clearer and say either a maximum of 2 places or a 1 or 2 car garage. But not both.
Yeah, I mean, I
So if
think
you had a 1-car garage,
You
These
have a
are-
1-car garage?
if you have a
Not really.
1-car garage, you're likely gonna have a spot behind it,
right,
just because
At
of the
least
way
one
it
spot,
is.
yeah.
If you have a
exactly.
2-car garage, you're probably gonna have
Yeah.
a spot behind each.
Yeah,
So that's 4 spots if you have a 2-car garage.
I was thinking, Jesse, of the outside, not in the garage.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, based on what the kinds of, even just the design they gave us, these lots, we're talking 400 square foot private exclusive use areas. These are small lots. I think
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea of having 2 paved spaces next to a garage, your backyard is all pavement. So I think
Yeah.
the intention is
Yeah.
really to have backyard usable space, keep the cars inside.
Yeah.
Right, but if you have a 2-car garage, you have to be able to drive into it, so.
You're
if
gonna have
rather
some
than
kind of a
right up
driveway
against
to
the
get
road
into it, yeah.
or
Yeah, and I
there's
think
gonna be pavement behind it, so I
Yeah.
don't
you're right.
practically know what that means.
Well, like at Faxon Farm, that you just pull into the garage, I think, don't you? There's no driveways there. I don't know, I'm just trying to think, somewhere over there. It seems like you just pull right in. I don't know if they have room over there.
I don't think they do. I think it is just garages.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at villages, there's definitely a spot behind the garage.
but those are for younger people and families,
Right,
whereas these other places, they're supposed to not have so much stuff, not big SUVs.
But are you really going to
it
back
is,
directly out of your garage onto the road?
what was that?
Are we really gonna have someone drive directly out of the garage onto the road and not be able to see? Like, there's a reason why there's space behind your garage.
I think what we heard at Regency from the fire department and from others was that the next time we do this, we need to make sure that, and I think this is written into the bylaw maybe, but not specifically for cottage dwellings, that there needs to be 20 or 25 feet between the garage door and the start of the sidewalk. So that you don't have cars that pull in, because a lot of people just pull in, they don't go into their garage, they leave their car there.
Yeah.
And if it's too short of a distance, your car's hanging over the sidewalk.
So they
Average
want 20 feet?
Average parking space is 19 feet deep, typical. So, you can fit a, big American car in a 19-foot spot.
So if somebody had a 2-car garage, by default, like Laurie said before, they have 4 spaces.
I mean, it's just not
Right?
practical to
Yeah,
say the garage is gonna be
practically
up the
speaking,
street.
yeah.
It's actually quite dangerous.
Yeah,
We'd be plowing snow right up in front of their garage door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, we're not gonna spouse, no. They're contractors.
that's why I was
contract.
thinking all along that you were talking about outside. parking spaces rather than garage.
But in
parking
reality,
spaces.
a homeowner could have 4 vehicles if
Yeah.
they have a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
Or space for 4 vehicles.
Yeah.
I think if we were to come up with language saying 2-car, if it was indeed 2-car garages and that there was ample space for vehicles to park behind them, then it would be, I mean, certainly we'd have, I think at that point we'd have more than enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the
Right.
difference between
Yeah.
de facto spaces and designated spaces.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I still think, so you still have subsection D, the planning board may allow for an alteration in the number and arrangement of parking spaces, provided it will improve the overall design of the open land, yada, yada, yada. There is still, of course, it's a rule and a reg, so. I liked the idea, and at least in their site plan, their concept of kind of dispersed guest parking.
Yeah.
That was more.
Yeah,
adjacent
I'd
to the
rather have
open
that.
Space
Yeah.
itself.
I like that too.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't have the sketch plan with me, but they had garages, 2-car garages, so they basically had 4 spaces plus guests
For each
parking
unit,
in their
yeah.
They
plan.
had 2-car garages and they were using them as almost like the backyard dividers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
hold on just a second.
I forgot to, I don't have it with me.
I'm gonna try to find it quickly here.
Mark, are you trying to say something? Can't hear you.
Ridgewood. There
There
we
you
go.
go.
How far is Ridgewood from the road with their garages?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's less than 20 feet. I can find that out though. I think that's why we were getting that comment.
So in a sense,
And
it's
that's where the fire
slightly,
department, no, go ahead.
so slightly tight at Ridgewood, you might say. Is that fair?
Exactly. Okay, hold on just a sec. Here we go. Okay. So not great, but what you can see is there's clearly some space behind each of these garages.
Mhm.
Here are the alleyways right here. And,
I think the issue of the sidewalk, needing the space for the sidewalk is mute because of the alleys, meaning
Yeah.
the sidewalks seem to be in the front.
mhm. That's true. So that you can still see they've got the 20-foot driveway here
I see.
Yeah,
behind a 2-car garage. And what I was talking about was trying to make sure that it wasn't like a side by side where you had your garage, but you had to have 2 designated spaces because this was going to be used as
Yeah, yeah.
landscaped area. So in this instance, 20 feet. So unless you've just got a really big truck or something, you're going to be able to fit 4 vehicles for an evening dinner.
right.
Yep.
And then I'm just going to scroll up for a second because I'm trying to, oh yeah, so here is one of they had like these little pockets of parking
Yep.
scattered about. Now that would, I don't know how many spaces they were thinking, but yeah.
Can I note that how they've arranged themselves around the village green and yet other houses are facing towards, I guess, a natural open area?
Mm.
I wonder, it could be we want to encourage that, or maybe not. And we might want to think about that.
Well, it works for the ones on the perimeter. But the ones in the center need the created green or they're facing each other.
Mhm.
So in
Mhm.
this picture, if you look at the right column, the last column here, the houses are essentially facing the woods.
Yeah.
And is that a walkway in front of it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not, as far as this idea of the cottage goes, I'm not crazy about it. I still think it's a nicer and different kind of design that other than just facing the road like every other development, but there was some of it does take away from a little bit of the communal aspect of what the
It does, yeah.
development's supposed to be. Yeah, so I think I would imagine, and I might be just projecting here based on my own biases, but I would imagine that folks that are in these perimeter developments, maybe your like whole porch environment, your front yard is going to be a very different experience over here than it
Then,
would be
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And
That's
Yeah.
where my husband would want to live.
I mean, and then maybe that's fine, like that there's more private units in
On the
units,
perimeter ones, mine too, yeah.
and then there's more public ones. So that might be fine. But then again, you know, I guess if you're a private type, you probably aren't buying in a cottage development anyway.
That's probably true.
So I called it out because it seems like we've mandated everybody has to be on a common. And so,
Which is gonna almost turn this around and have a really long oblong with
Yeah,
right,
all the houses around it. Which basically means that all you're gonna see when you drive around are the garages.
Yeah.
like parts of villages, but
Yeah,
would we ever want to say facing, the fronts must face the common or open natural areas so that a layout like this could work? Just somehow make it clear that you're not supposed to be facing a
The
neighboring
garages.
structure or any other kind of structure. That the frontage must be towards an undeveloped area or a common area.
I mean, yeah, no, it's good. That's a good question.
It's difficult because I think that, you know, this could be something nice. But I think it's difficult to actually put it into rules and regs and know what you're gonna come out with.
exactly.
Because if I take what Nancy said, I could make everybody face outward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, like at Riverwalk, these people on the far right are facing a meadow where they all have gardens, and that's the pull for those ones that aren't on a green. They're able to do garden areas and stuff. So these outer ones, I forget what they call them. I have a friend that lives over there, but they bought those units because they could dig and make gardens and all that stuff in what they were facing rather than being on the manicured village green thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm concerned the way we were talking before, we're just gonna end up with a big oval and all anyone will see driving around the roads is all of the garages.
Yeah,
But I know what we intended and I don't dislike that. And I mean, the thing I like about this is the garages are facing garages and not
right.
the fronts. I just don't
Yeah,
know
no.
what the words would lead to those acceptable things.
So let's just, what's hard here is that we're only looking at the rules and regs and we don't have the bylaw in front of us, which really set the stage for the overall
Yeah,
feeling
Yeah.
of what this was supposed to be. And we're just looking at details. So let Malcolm and I go back to this. Take a look at how this reacts with the bylaw itself, and then determine if there needs to be some language about, is it a certain number of the homes that really have to be oriented towards a common area? Can it be some combination of homes facing common areas and undeveloped areas? We can talk more about that. I just want to see how this looks against the bylaw.
That makes sense, Jesse. And, if you look at this, half of the houses face the green, half of the houses face outward. You can
Mhm.
certainly question the ones on the left-hand side because I don't know what they're facing.
Mhm. Right,
Yeah.
right. I think from 10,000 feet though, I look at this and I look at some other developments in town, and like this in and amongst other neighborhoods in a development already is a much more varied and interesting
right.
layout than what we would
Right.
typically see. So I know we want to get it right, but at the same time, I'm encouraged that like already it's
Right.
it's more diverse than anything we've seen.
Yeah.
So,
No.
but anyway, so that's what we'll do. We'll do a little more research on that, try to figure out what the context is, and we can come back to it.
Okay.
I was going to comment about the Village Green thing. I went to a workshop probably 3 years ago on PCDs or something like that. And we went to this place in, I think it was Groton, and they had an open Village Green in the middle. And it was so cool because there were all these kids that were just throwing frisbees and, and so if I were a person who had younger kids, I might want to be on a Village Green so the kids could all play and have a whole area that right in front of their house where they could just hang out with their friends.
Mm-hmm. So at Villages, that's a pretty big green where you have the units facing it.
Yeah, I never see anyone on it.
Oh, I've seen kids playing out there.
Yeah,
I've seen
think-
kids playing out there. I haven't seen.
I think
Yeah.
the
I
I
problem,
think
out there.
because it has the road going around it, it just doesn't
Yeah.
have that strolling effect, and it's just open grass. I don't
Yeah.
think they have trees or benches or anything.
it does.
No. And
it's
that
pretty
takes
sterile.
the sidewalk, the road takes away from it.
It's kind of like a median.
Yeah.
But that's a part of that is because they buried all their water infrastructure under there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so they couldn't really do anything interesting with it. So it's
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
austere plain. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you. It's
Like
it
a
was
runway.
a missed opportunity.
yeah.
Okay. So I guess, Jesse, you kind of heard the feedback.
Yep, I got it.
You can see what we can make of that. All right, so let's go back. Hold on, now I've lost my way. Or my document, I should say.
So are we at garage standards? Have we?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Jesse, do you have an impression how much wider or bigger accessibility you may require of a garage compared to an ordinary vehicle?
I think when you have, well, I know like ADA standards for parking areas, I think it's a 6-foot hash mark. I was talking to Sue about this, and in earlier versions, we had square footages for the garages themselves. And she was just saying to be careful with that, because in an age-targeted design, you might have people in wheelchairs, and so it might be easier just to say it needs to be able to accommodate somebody. So no, I don't know exactly what like building code would say about something like that. If it were an outdoor space, I'm pretty sure you typically see a 6-foot hash mark like next to a van space or something like that.
Are we basically trying to limit so that there's no extra living space above the garage?
We certainly am not intending in any way to have extra living spaces or.
Because we are limiting to 2 bedrooms, so,
Right.
but I don't know.
But if we
Yeah,
don't
I know.
actually explicitly put something in here,
I think we should, yeah.
everyone will end up with things above the garage. Extra spaces.
It'll be like an office and then really a bedroom or whatever, yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So they're 1-story garages.
Well,
I mean, you can have a 1-story garage and you can put up, I'm gonna stop the share. You can put stuff up in the rafters, like boards and stuff for more storage. Are we saying that's kind of what we want out of this? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It wouldn't hurt
Or-
to specifically say no living space above the garage.
Right.
Or the garage can't even be converted to a living space.
right,
No.
like my garage, the barn that we built has an upstairs, it's only storage. But to Karen's point, if someone comes in, they could be like, hey, I'm gonna finish that.
Yeah,
Plus, you know what? You can get really a huge amount of storage just by putting a couple sheets of plywood
Oh,
on the
yeah.
rafters and store. I mean, that's
right, yeah.
that's a bonus there.
okay.
All right, are we moving on to 327?
Mhm.
This is hard. I've done a lot of research and there's not a lot out there to try to understand how to design or how to regulate this type of use.
So are we gonna talk about the garages in the context of, because Meg's memo was about the 2-car garages? I don't know how everybody feels.
Yeah, no, I mean, I welcome comment. I guess I was thinking that people would comment on it as we go through each section.
So I was talking to a friend. I actually, I know she lives at Villages, so I couldn't remember if she had 2-car garage or 1-car garage. She's got a 3-bedroom, 2-car garage. She said some of the 2-bedroom units have a 1-car garage. But she said her parents just bought a new 55+ complex in Wilmington. They all have 1-car garage, no other option. However, that is one of the biggest complaints from potential buyers and new owners. 2 would be better place to store patio furniture and grill. Many 55 to 70-year-olds still work, they afford 2 cars. Just an observation.
I mean, the other thing for me, I mean, I have a 2-car garage, I only have 1 car, but the other bay in my garage is my workshop,
Mhm.
so. I
We have
wouldn't
5 cars, no garages.
mind- There's all kinds of options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a garage. We've got 2 cars.
I mean,
I've had 4 cars at once with no garage.
I've always wanted a garage.
Yeah, me too.
I have
But-
garage envy.
these places are gonna sell though. So it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, well, somebody
And-
can't bring 2 or 3 cars with them, but you know, are there gonna be people who are perfectly willing and who want to downsize and who are willing to say, oh, well, we'll move in with our 2 cars and then we'll just get rid of one of them and just start sharing a car now, you know, or using public transportation. Like, I'm not sure that we have to build all this in for what's going to sell, because I think that these are going to sell. And I think that there are plenty of people who are willing to put up with a 1-car garage and another space outside. I mean, John and I would do that in a second. We don't have a garage either, you know,
yeah.
and it would be nice to just have a 1-car garage.
But I don't think there's anything in the bylaw on these rules and regs that say they have to put in 2-car garage for every unit.
No.
So, you know, I guess it's how specific we want to be about it. It's sort of up to the developer to go up to that maximum of 2 cars.
Well, I don't think that we want to say that they have to be 2-car garages. That's what I am trying to push, is that
Right.
let's don't say that, you know.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't
I
definitely.
agree with that.
I agree with that, yeah.
There's no, I don't have an argument with that.
Yeah, I don't think we were saying that. I mean, we're basically saying they shall have no more than 1 detached garage. And that garage should have no more
No
than
more than,
vehicles.
2 vehicles.
It basically means
Yeah.
that they can have no garage, they can have 1
can have-
garage.
1 bay or 2 bays, yeah.
Malcolm, I've made you co-host. Sounds like the selectmen are getting closer and closer to their executive session, so
Okay.
I'll let you know when I have to jump off.
Don't get in a fight with them, Jesse.
I mean,
I know.
I think the challenge for me is that 55 is not old. And
Exactly.
you're still
Yeah.
working. And I can't see dictating smaller if we're thinking about that. But, you know, I happen to have had a garage since 1993, and I probably will never live in a place without a garage.
No, I second that. I mean, there's nothing like being able to, when it's raining or snowing, to be able to push the automatic garage door opener, drive into the garage, close the door and go into your house without having to go outside in the snow and rain.
So I have
I've
no
never
problem-
had the garage and I would love to have one.
Mhm.
So I mean,
But-
I guess for me, I think that we aren't saying there should be 2, and we're basically saying that would be the maximum.
Okay.
So my issue is just the size and the bulk of the structures. And because this is set up, so the garages are in the back, they're not gonna, unless you're going to park in your
Well, and
garage,
that's
that
why
you're the
I
only one
really,
that's really gonna see it. I'm more concerned about the visual
Mhm.
and to that
impact.
end,
Right.
basically
Rather than how
saying
somebody
there's no
lives.
second floor and there's no living space is going to also keep them at a smaller
Yeah,
And
structure.
I had a reaction to the 55 and older, you know, is that if somebody is still working and they're really obsessed with their job and they're going to work for another 10 or 15 years, they will probably buy one of the bigger houses. You
Yeah,
know, it's, I
right.
mean, you know, what you were saying about what your friend said, Karen, you know, is
Yeah,
that, you know,
right.
it's
Or they'll
just,
buy a house in Maine and downsize in Massachusetts.
Or their kids are gonna come back after college and they're gonna be stuck with them for years.
I know somebody who's got that position too.
Yeah,
It can
they all have
happen
cars.
multiple
Their kids
times.
back from college plus their grandkids.
we're never getting rid of the bunk beds. It's the only deterrent.
My kids have come back and left several times.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think that now that we've changed this bylaw to not be so specific about age
Right.
restriction, I do think we're gonna have all kinds of different
Mhm.
things.
Single parents, I think, will find these appealing,
Yeah,
you know?
Are we assuming that all garages are going to be detached? Is there a mandate that there be an integral garage? Are we enjoined from doing that?
Well, right now, the cottage dwelling specifically, so I think we're talking about the college dwelling right now as opposed to
Got
the. So it does say there won't be any more than one detached garage per unit, and they can still do shared garages as well. Although that has a limit of how many, because you don't want massive garage structures.
It
So is
did
it
say
saying they
there'll
have
be-
to be detached, or can it be?
I don't think you can, I wouldn't recommend it being attached because the cottage dwelling, the whole design of what they are would not work, I don't think, with
Right.
an attached garage.
I agree. I
Now-
think it'll make it ugly.
Bruce actually brought up the breezeway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the definition of that is.
Yeah, I think,
Keep an
that-
umbrella in your car.
well, I mean, I have what might be considered a 3-season room between my garage and my house.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
come out of my garage, I go into this, what I do call a breezeway, has significant windows and skylights, and then can walk into my house without going outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the
So
question,
is that considered
is that
a
okay?
detached?
Is that detached? Oh, that's a good question. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So apropos the whole basement conversation, the builder could decide they want their basement to be a garage and make it a non-detached garage space.
Really? How?
Hmm.
So I'm just speculating,
Well, that would depend on the grades of the property.
Well,
right?
probably.
And it could be encouraged by the grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, based on what they showed us, I didn't have a reaction to the breezeway.
Mhm.
Well,
I think they asked if they could, in a sense, have a covered, I think there was like
yeah,
a walkway from the garage to the back
Yeah.
door, which is supposed to have a porch, and they asked if they could cover that. That might
Yeah.
be good.
Jesse, what do you think?
Protect from the elements.
I kind of put it to the test of, does it somehow take away from the age target of the unit? Does it take away from the open space benefits? Does it take away from like the core things? And if the answer keeps being no, I'm a little more agnostic about something like a breezeway.
Mhm.
me
Um,
too.
You know,
I think we were trying to avoid the house with the side like attached,
Yeah,
so that you'd be
yeah.
looking at.
Right, yeah.
Plus, it's really kind of extraneous. I get the point that it's nice to not get rained on, but I just think that looking at a breezeway just sounds really ugly to me, and I would much rather have the sun shine on the grass or my flowers in the back rather than, just a breezeway. I mean, it just, to me, I would much rather have it open.
Meg votes for snow shoveling.
I love to snow shovel.
I don't necessarily have a problem with the way we've written it, and I think let the builder come and be creative and see.
Yeah, I remember this is a regulation, so,
Right,
yeah,
that's why I'm,
yeah.
So what do you mean by that, Karen? Like, explain why you said that.
We have some flexibility with the regulation. We can say we want it detached, but if somebody comes in with
A good design.
plan that is a good design, the board could waive it,
Okay,
as opposed to it being in the zoning bylaw.
okay.
Which we couldn't.
Allowing
Yeah.
it, okay,
Yeah. It gives us the flexibility either way.
okay. I'm okay with that, good.
Okay, good. So I guess back to indoor community facilities.
Mhm.
Question on this, and I just don't remember. Did we mandate in the bylaw that there be one?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And keep in mind, in the original bylaw during Ridgewood Regency, we had no regs or anything about them whatsoever.
And they
Yeah.
just came and
Yeah.
proposed whatever.
Just-
And so this is, right, so we're requiring it, and so this is meant to give some guidance as to what we want it to be.
Right.
Exactly, yep.
I know where you could find, did you say that you didn't know where you could find some kind of spelling out about this community building?
Yeah, I didn't have good luck, so I'll take any recommendation. you have.
You know where there's one, and I do gardening at that Half Moon co-housing place. In
In Acton,
Acton over by Idlewild.
yeah.
And they have a really nice big community space. And they also don't park at their houses. They actually have these little carts that are in all the driveways. I mean, in all the parking areas for each of the houses. And so you just put your stuff in the cart and you take it up to your house and then bring it back to the common area. But they have a common gathering place too, that's for everybody. And I could see, I don't know how you would access that.
That development's the same one as in Berlin, the co-housing place.
Mhm.
So, and they have that same kind of thing there too. It was done by the same developer. The name's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember.
Do you guys
Is it
know?
the same developer that wanted to do the one in
Yes.
Stow?
Yes, Cornelius.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
Okay.
they share a kitchen space and
Yeah.
a bunch of different stuff.
Do you guys know how big their community spaces are? Facilities are?
I think they're pretty big because it's living room facilities. There's even, I think there were even laundry facilities in one of them. It was to try to bring so much out of the homes and into the community area.
So I guess, Jesse, I'm kind of looking at the occupancy number, and so so how many houses are we talking about?
Yeah,
Times
so-
2 bedrooms.
So this is a good question. Okay, so we were talking about 132 units, 2 bedrooms, which is 264 bedrooms. Now, we had Regency, which was 66 units, 132 bedrooms. And I wish I had all my math on here. I didn't include it, but I was looking at the size of the community. So everybody said the community center at Regency was too small.
So this says 264, 75%. So this says they have to build a facility for 200, almost 200 people.
They're gonna have function space, yes.
Right, right.
I'm just looking up this one in
And I think the
Hudson,
occupancy at,
big.
the occupancy at Regency, I wanna say was like
It's like 60 at the most.
60 or something like that, yeah. And so I was trying to like basically kind of prorate and do some ratios and try to understand like how many people, what was the demand at Regency and how did that pan out?
So that means Regency, according to this, should have been almost 100.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that would have taken care of stuff.
You think so?
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thought process I tried, because this is, the occupancy was something specifically that I could not find anywhere on these types of uses. So that's how I looked at it. You're right. If we had applied this, it would have been about 100 at Regency rather than.
And I think that the thing I can't figure out in my head is, okay, it has to occupy 200 people. Like, how big is that gonna be?
Yeah.
it could be a pretty big structure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be fancy with a lot of things. It's more like the open space.
This one in Berlin is supposed to service 68 homes. It's pretty big. On Sawyer Hill Road.
Do they give the dimensions of the place?
No, trying to find that. It's
So
very big.
I have a vagueness question. When we say bedrooms, it's not really saying persons. And what do we mean by bedrooms for the occupancy quantity?
Yeah, do you assume one person per bedroom or two people per bedroom? Or three people per two bedrooms?
Noting that we could have a variable population, even though we're targeting a population.
Right. But that's the way with everything.
Right, so this just says 75% of the number of bedrooms is what the occupancy needs to account for.
Yeah, it's just a way to, it's just a way to have a finite
it's-
number.
Right,
So the assumption is one person per bedroom, therefore,
Yeah,
when they're looking for a,
well,
what kind
it's
of.
not trying to put number of people because it's not implying that you need to account a facility for 75% of the people. It's simply saying
That's
you
how you
need to
calculate.
account, to size it, you take the number of bedrooms times 75%.
so if we were, is there a general concern here that we might be forcing a large community facility onto the property?
Well,
that-
I'm
Okay.
not necessarily concerned, except for how big, like, what
What
is
does it
that?
look like? So if
it's
maybe
gonna
if it
look
looks like a
Hmm.
Right.
And I
barn or
asked, it's
something.
not
Yeah,
just
the
for the
design of
cottage
it.
homes, right?
No, this isn't, this is for the whole
Yes.
thing.
So the whole
Yeah.
thing, it might not appear to be too large if it's for the whole thing.
I just had a comment about this. I've been in Regency's like 2 times, and it has a lot of really fancy furniture. It has a lot of furniture. I mean, it's a nice place to sit around, but you know what? It sure is not a convenient place to move around in. And in my mind, I can invite people over to my house and we can sit around and talk quietly with furniture. But if I want to have, like, say, a line dance one night, or just a community dance, or show a movie or something, I want to just have open space. I don't need all that fancy furniture, and my reaction to Regency is, well, take some of the furniture out of there, and then you could get more people in there. But I just, I just think that it's 2 different kind of conceptual uses of the space, and I would much rather see open space inside.
It sounds like, Meg, we certainly want it to be flexible, to be able to accommodate, say, like, to be used as where you host a party. So you want tables and chairs, not sort of living room furniture.
Exactly, yeah.
So we want it to be multiple, able
Or
to
have
be used for multiple
classes or
things.
lectures come in, or all different things.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Plus, the one at Regency is the farthest it can be from all the homes, like people have to drive there.
They purposely made it by the pool, correct?
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
right as you come in.
Which I think is
Something, no offense, but if people have to drive down there, I don't know, that just flabbergasts me.
It could be winter, Meg. It could be winter.
So
but
I did find a metric online about, for a banquet style event, you need about 12 square feet per person. So if there's 100 people.
this is gonna, so if we use this
1200.
calculation, it'll be 198 people.
Oh, that's pretty big. 2,400 square feet.
Well, what's the square root of 1,200?
So that's almost 2,400 square feet, which I guess is the size of a house.
Mhm.
But it's going to be single floor, single
Probably,
level.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
if I'm a developer and I am saying, how big do you want this community building to be? I've got 200 bedrooms. What's the answer in terms of, like, I need to get a permit from my fire department for what's the maximum occupancy for my structure? And I
So-
want to know how to build for that.
So basically, if we use the calculation in here, if it's 200, well, ours is 132 units times 0.75, sorry, woo.
So it's about 50 feet on a side, 50 by 50. The building.
So it's like double the size of a house because it's one floor.
You know what I think is a good space, a side space, is the community room at the community center. That big room where they have like exercises and stuff, and where they show the presentation stuff. I mean, that's even might be a little bit big, but it's a really nice open space. And I don't know what the occupancy is for that room,
Does
but I
anybody
think
know?
that that's a really very usable, wonderful open space there. And I
would,
think all we need is the open space and 2 bathrooms.
I think the occupancy in there is what, like 90 something.
Huh.
What if we gave a number? We could do some more research. We throw out a number of that we want them to try to reach, and then we say that the planning board may alter this if the design of the building can show that there's, like, let's say they come forward and they say, you know what, we'll do a little bit of a smaller space, but we're going to have a really big deck. We're going to have an open area where somebody could put up a tent outside. We're going to have a
And it's gonna look like a nice New England.
Yes.
And that the
you know,
inside
cabin and-
is
yeah,
multi-purpose, like Meg is
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Sure.
We need line dancing here in town.
there's been an outcry. I've heard it.
Okay, that sounds good, Jesse. I like
Okay.
where you're going.
Let me try to figure that out. Okay.
Because then the reason why I got fixated on the size there is also because now then the parking.
Right.
That's a lot of parking.
Yeah, so this is another hard one. I basically used as a starting point, our like clubhouse stuff that we have in our planning board, in our zoning bylaw, sorry. 1 space for each 4 occupants, yeah. So
I
again,
mean, 74 spaces. That's
Yeah.
that's huge.
Is that overkill?
I think so.
Like
I think
Meg said, if it's
Yeah.
for that development, so not everybody is gonna drive there.
And we want to really encourage very pedestrian oriented, friendly.
And we do say that in there, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to see us say,
Pave everything.
encourage people to make big parking lots.
Wow.
That would make me
Yeah.
crazy.
Let's encourage golf carts in the integrity of the land in their past history.
There you go.
It can be like the villages in Florida.
Yes,
Can some of these spaces be double counted as guest spaces or other ways?
Good,
we require
yeah,
this to go on
yeah.
there?
I would think so.
how many parking spaces does Regency have for their building?
Think it's like 26, 16. I'll figure that out. I know I looked at it. I just didn't write it down. Let me see here. I want to say they had something in the 20s. That's what's popping into my head.
Okay, because according to this, they would have needed 25.
Okay.
That's a lot of parking. If there's a way
I
we,
wonder how often it gets used or if it if it ever gets filled.
Well, it's been closed down for so long,
Yeah,
like locked up,
yeah.
Wow.
so.
There's about 25 parking places at the Regency one, which includes a couple of handicap accessible ones.
Well, what's interesting is their clubhouse is undersized for their thing, so they would have, so it's interesting that they have that much parking, even though their facility doesn't accommodate our calculation.
Mhm.
They're like 30 short.
Well, you know what, is they have all those parking spots. I think, I want to say there's like 5 or 6 that are right in front of the
Right.
the mailboxes, which adds more to their clubhouse there.
Malcolm, I'm gonna have you keep this discussion going. I gotta run shortly, and hopefully I'll be able to jump back on if we're still going.
Good luck.
That was good.
Get along.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
So I don't know where we're gonna land on the parking, but I don't want to encourage the bigger parking, and I would rather they put it somewhere near where people can use the visitor parking or walk. Like it's,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, they can create some specific parking for this, but to say we're gonna create 50 to 75 parking spaces makes me cringe.
Me
I know,
too.
I'm thinking that's, how big is the Pompo parking lot? Half of that must be 75, right? Because that's not that big, and that would be huge in a development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We
Okay.
want to say something about that the common facility should be centrally located to provide easy access to the bulk of the units.
yeah, and encourage
Walkability.
walkability
No.
and minimize additional parking necessity.
Right.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so it seems like we'll have to come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that combined with, like Meg said, not everybody's gonna drive there anyway.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on page 29?
Yes, I have a comment on homeowners association. This is not so much what I mentioned the last meeting, but the transition from the developer to the homeowners. I'm grumpy about developers which hold on to the association for years when the homeowners association doesn't even know what's going on until a long time after they've been on board. And I'm raised the topic of mandating that there be homeowners at least present, even if they have no votes on the homeowners association when there's a, some certain threshold, say 25% of the units are sold. So at least they know what the hell the developer is doing with the homeowners association, even if they don't have a vote. I'm recalling for the Regency that and Ridgewood that they wanted the association to be the developers for a couple of years. I mean, for a semi-indefinite amount of time until they were done. And I know for villages at Stow, there's an equally troublesome period where developers were not done and they hadn't finished they were dealing with troublesome septic, and the homeowners weren't at the table for their own homeowners association because the developer owned the whole association. So I'm just thinking out loud, just mandate that they have the right to attend and have seats at the table of some kind, even if they don't have a vote and the developers in control, so that they, can talk about what's going on among themselves and not be in the dark.
So you want the
So you-
homeowners to have some kind of representation prior to it being transferred over from the
Yeah,
developer.
even
Yeah.
if non-voting. Yeah, process so that they get to attend the homeowners association decision-making process.
And you're saying, I think your suggestion was, once it hits a certain threshold, because clearly if nobody owns yet, they can't have that, but if, once
Right.
they,
Right, yeah,
They get to have to start the process and everybody gets to practice as they get on board.
yeah,
And I admit I don't have a clear idea what that threshold is, but some reasonable number, a third, half, I don't know,
Yeah.
a quarter, I don't know. But there's something so that the developer has to start talking to
Yeah.
people about what they're doing.
I mean, I think 25 to a third is a reasonable thing, meaning if you think of 132, 25% is not small.
right, Yeah.
So I think that's a good number of people to at least, as Mark's saying, start having them participate or
Right.
get informed, or at least be able to hear what's going on and give input.
right. That's a good point, Mark, because they can be completely blindsided at the end. Here you go, and yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So I suspect this will take some thought, and I haven't really thought more than about being grumpy about that transition. And it's typical that the developer has ironclad control until bang, it's done, and then you're handed over. It's like, what the hell's going on here?
Mhm. Malcolm, you got the gist of what we're,
I think so, yeah, and this is something,
Yeah.
reach out for clarification if needed.
Yeah. okay,
I don't have the history that you're referring to here, Mark.
Yeah,
So I
but-
just gotta
yeah.
know what the role you're referring to is, but
Okay, anything else on page 29?
can I actually ask, going back, finishing the discussion on the community space, there's some talk about locating it. Was that
We
Have
said
it
we wanted
to
to,
basically minimize the
located.
amount of parking required?
we wanted to locate it centrally to encourage walkability,
yeah,
minimize parking, incremental parking needed specifically for the facility. And I feel like, John, I missed something.
How
And
is
making
this
it
distinct from
accessible.
3.27.1, it's accessibility on page 28? Is this an addition to this language?
Hold on.
It's the accessibility heading on page 28. I guess this doesn't say specifically to minimize parking needed, but
yeah.
I mean, we are saying,
Yeah, that's basically saying
Yeah.
it, but maybe
Spell it
just
out
beef it
better.
up a little to
okay,
say that we're encouraging walkability.
okay.
The whole thing is we just want to avoid the need for a big, huge
Parking.
parking area.
And
And then last one thing, was there some discussion on, so that the actual ratio, that the equation here on 3.27.3, the parking requirement, the one space for 4 occupants. Is there some idea that to count those spaces, to basically count the visitor spaces from the previous sections we've discussed, that those can be included in that count?
yeah, I think what we're saying is that we don't like the calculation because we don't want a parking lot that big. And if we're trying to figure out if we encourage them to centrally locate it and provide the walkability, et cetera, that we can come up with a different
A different calculation. Yeah,
calculation.
yeah.
And this is nitpicky, but just, and I don't think that it hurts to reiterate a lot in this document that we are encouraging the creation of community and not just walkability and that the purpose of this community building is to actually build community. And along with that being in a central location and encouraging walkability.
And so that was just where Jesse landed in the sense that the calculation in here is for occupancy, but we would add something in that said the planning board would entertain smaller facilities if they were, however, I mean, we said of the, the design that, was multi-purpose, and there were outdoor spaces that kind of could be used in conjunction with that, or things of that nature.
Like he mentioned a porch, he mentioned a space for a tent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Could be a
community
patio,
spaces, yeah,
Anything, yeah.
yeah.
That I guess what we're saying there is not only would we take the design and multi-purpose use of a smaller facility, but we would also look to combine some of the outdoor spaces that could be
Correct.
used in conjunction with the
Right.
indoor space.
That's a
Right.
great way of putting it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I just said, so I hope so. You got that.
I do.
Well, I think we'd be open to creative designs that would help support the community activities.
Variety of activities.
Indoor,
Indoor
combination,
and
indoor, outdoor.
Mhm. All right, so once we get past 29, it looks like the next revision is on page 32, which is really just taking some things out.
Mhm.
I don't know, let's see, I'm scrolling. So I think that was about it. So let's ask the question. Were there topics on people's minds that you were hoping were covered in here or were discussed that we haven't done so yet?
Are there any, I don't recall, there any sort of architectural guidelines? Do we want to have something like that, or some style or something? Or
What was the section on design?
Let's see.
I guess there's a fine line between saying enough and saying too much.
I know.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, I think, and I don't know if there was a section on design, I don't remember. But if there would be, I would think we would, architectural, no. I would think we would want it to, hold on, 17 says something about architectural plan.
Mhm.
Oh, the numbering's off because of, we've made so many changes. Hold
What
on.
section you?
Well, I looked in the table of contents and there's say
Oh.
there's a section on architectural plans.
Yeah, section 3.25. It's on page 26, I think, of the draft. The old one, at least.
Yeah, architectural plans.
I mean, I think, John, you're getting more to building outward building design. And I wonder if we should have a statement in here at a minimum that at least says
No,
looking something
Small
to
town, New
fit in
England
and
village or
or enhance the rural character
yeah.
of Stow. Is there, that just made me think of something, and you guys can laugh at me. Those of you who were here when we did Regency can laugh at me. Is there something in here about signs?
Oh,
Because I know that was a
The
big pet
trails?
peeve of mine. Regency wanted to put one of those really ugly, big things that really doesn't fit into Stow, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and we didn't even like the change to Regency because it sounds more commercial, like a hotel. Or, yeah, and then the
Yeah.
sign too on top of that would, yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been to other states where you drive by a neighborhood and they have this massive like structures, rocks.
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah, yeah.
That was like down the road. So personally, I'd love to see something added in about,
I agree.
I
And
would go
like-
along with that big time.
if you even look at
Yeah,
the horrible columns outside of DeVincent.
Yeah,
whew, does not fit into the town
No,
in my mind. And so if there's anything we can put in here to discourage those things, I'd be all for it.
I agree.
what do you call those kind of signs?
It's almost like,
natural, rustic is what you want.
but
Abomination.
I think what they're,
I
what
don't know,
they're
just have
getting
a
at,
street sign.
you know, we don't want any
Yeah.
sort of
Formal,
formal entry.
Ornate,
Yeah.
informal, yeah.
Garish.
And the sign should be keeping with the rural character, which is what we told them, and they did change the sign, so it was fine. It was just a lot of discussion.
Good catch, Laurie.
So, John, I didn't mean to cut you off, and I don't know if we actually covered the point you were making or not. I'm sorry. Architectural.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything we want to say about architectural style of the buildings.
I mean, based on, I most see it as, we certainly want things that are keeping in the New England style. And you could certainly see it even in what the discussion we've had about the business district. Just wondering if there's anything from there or language we can adopt here, or at a minimum, at least have a statement in there about a descriptive of what we want
Mhm.
or desire, even if that just only prompts them to ask what it
What does
is.
that mean? Yeah, I think that would be useful.
My recollection is that some of this made it into the bylaw. For
Oh,
everything except for
maybe.
the cottage
maybe there's
units,
something
and that
really
what's
that
only
I
in
don't
here
recall.
is only the architectural standards in section, say, I think it's 3.26.
Oh, so this is only applying to cottage?
Yes.
Okay,
There.
Yeah, so I think we want sort of an overarching
yeah. So
architectural
you're right, that
design
might have been in
statement.
that might have been in the bylaw.
Here we are, just a moment here. Yes, there's a whole raft of language on architectural design standards for the
Okay.
development
Okay.
overall.
Okay.
That's,
So we're
that's
good.
good.
Yeah.
These are only to allow the flexibility, as Jesse was saying, to waive things as it becomes necessary or
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
good.
I've got another one, and maybe this is covered in something else. As we talk about the parking and the guest parking and all that, can we require electric charging stations, a minimum number somewhere?
Well, that kind of raises the whole discussion, I think, about,
The energy and all that.
yeah, how do
Yeah.
we want to encourage them to be progressive about,
I was just thinking how the new public parking in Maynard, where the garage was, when that got taken down and they built new spaces, they put in the 4 charging stations there.
yeah. So, I mean,
Well, maybe part of a green or energy efficient guidelines might be to encourage garages that are wired to support electric vehicle charging. And another thing, you're talking about maybe public or guest charging. But
Yeah,
also for the residents, they should be
Yeah.
able to have garages that can support that.
mhm.
and I suppose that's something they would think about if they go and read that whole proposal, right? The green
Right.
energy thing.
Did we have something in the bylaw?
I
feel like
am
there was a
looking at it right
statement in
now,
there.
trying to
Yeah.
remember.
Because wasn't there even correspondence in our packet from Arnie?
Well, there is. It's a mandatory finding, I guess, in the bylaw that the development includes some combination of energy efficiency methods consistent with here. I'll just share it on the screen again rather than try to read this all out. So there's this section at
Yeah,
the beginning of it. So not a specific requirement, though there is a requirement of a finding.
Yeah, section 5.4.17, item
Yeah.
K. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, I want to say Arnie sent
Yeah,
some
that's what-
correspondence specifically about this section, right?
Yeah, and it was in our packet.
For last time, I think. Yeah. What did he say?
It's in everybody, it's in an email, yeah.
Oh boy.
yeah, at the bottom
Under
down there.
correspondence?
Is it this one? Let's see.
No,
No, this is just.
no.
Wait, am I? Must be the next meeting here. This is August 10th. This is last meeting. Okay. Hold
How about the August 18th email? 17th.
Yeah.
on, I think.
Oh, maybe it didn't get into the electronic copy?
Hmm.
So Arnie was referring to that section of the bylaw. And he said, I take it to mean the AAN should be consistent with Massachusetts Bill, Section 9, which includes the mandate to achieve the state 50% emissions reduction by 2030, which cannot be achieved with new housing using fossil fuels. Does this imply that the planning board need not give a special permit to an AAN if it's not consistent with Section 9? And I think, and Jesse's response was, I think it could be argued based on the wording. However, the intention was to include some combination of upgrades or methods that would be consistent with goals of moving towards greenhouse gas reductions. Not intended, it would mean only fossil-free units can be approved.
So do we want to include?
So
some
I
wording
don't think
like
it would
that?
hurt to encourage something in the regulations
Yeah.
for
I
like the garage. Yeah,
No.
And that may not be the only, so I think we should have a section then related to that bylaw that at least
More
states the things
specific.
we're trying to encourage, and honestly, even, I mean, we were
That's
talking
okay.
about at a minimum, they should be offering options, both for, heating, both for HVAC systems and for electric car handling. But I mean, those aren't the only things, and
yeah.
based on where we are now, I kind of wonder if we should put in the rules and regs that we require them to get educated about the mass
Yeah.
law
Yeah,
and
that's
then
not a
come
bad
back to
idea.
us with
A proposal.
a proposal as part of their application of how they plan on driving towards the state goal. That would, to
Right.
me, that would be,
That's good.
that's what we have. It's almost like because of the vagueness right now of where the state's going, and meaning people don't really know what it is yet.
Right,
I feel like let's at least put in there, they need to get educated on that, and they need to come back with a proposal to be included with their application of how they will.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Provide a proposal
That.
on how you will work towards.
right.
Yeah.
And then together we could negotiate the pieces that could go forward maybe.
Right, and that will give us some time to work with, you know, for the state to progress, but also to work with the new committee to figure out possibly more specifics that we want to put in the future, but I think that's a good first step.
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, I think that one of the things that's happening is that the state is deliberately being very vague about this, because there is going to be a huge outcry about this, because everybody's going to whine and say that, oh, this is going to cost more money, or, you know, you can't mandate this. And it's like, what the reality is that if we don't just kind of take a stand, I think, then things aren't going to happen, and it's going to continue to be vague like it's been for the last 10 years. And people have been talking about climate change for a long time, but it's like we have to, I feel like, you know, and I will just say this one last time, is that I am not afraid to say outright, contrary to what Jesse said, that the board is not ready to take this position. As a person, I am really there. To me, it's a no-brainer. So that's all I'll say about that. But I want to have the courage to be able to say that.
I mean, I think unless they get educated, the initial reaction will be it'll cost more money. And so I certainly think it behooves us to put in our rules and regs that we require them to get educated.
That's a really good idea.
Because then what they'll come back to us with will be so much more thoughtful than us having to sort of fight with them about it.
Right, and demand things, and
Plus, what I don't get about it is that as a person who did large scale electrical distribution, and I saw gas and all big distribution stuff go in, it is, you know, if you have everything, if you have a variety, like if you have gas going in and electric going in, you know, that is two systems that you have to bring in, you know. But if you simplify it and just have an electrical system the whole way and distribute it out there, that is so much cheaper. It doesn't even make sense to me. It just seems like a no-brainer. So, you know.
So, I mean, I don't know, Magdan, if you're suggesting we put something very specific. I guess my thought was, well, we force them to get educated and we force them to come back with a plan. We will then be able to, meaning they have to come back with a plan on how they're going to contribute to reducing those green, you know, making the reduction that the law basically says. To me, then they'll have to sort of put a whole plan together, and then we may be in a position where they're basically saying, okay, well, I'll put this if you don't make me do that, or.
Yeah, and I think to Jesse's point, he was saying he didn't think the board was ready to go that far yet, just because he's not sure how Mass General Law is going to change in order to give us the ability to require it. I think that's what his concern was, but I like the idea of requiring them to come up with a plan on what they'll do.
And I do think that as the new committee progresses and as the Massachusetts law progresses, we will actually be able to be very specific.
But it's just so frustrating because we're faced with so much development now. And
so I think to start with something is better than nothing.
And that's the volume. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just was going to say the volume of what we are facing. I mean, that's kind of why I'm taking this really hard position. We don't have a choice. I mean, this is going to happen really soon, and we need to just get the whole thing in place now, you know. So
I'm certainly encouraged that Bruce did follow up based on our conversation, and now he will meet with them, which I think hopefully by the time we next see him, we will be having a completely different conversation because he will be educated.
Chiming in on the electric power thing, it seems to me it's not that expensive to make sure that your garages have the right wiring and amperage available, you know, just stubbed out, waiting to be for some charging system to be put in. That's it. When you do that when you're building, it's not a big deal as opposed to
Right.
switching over to 240 volts 5 years later that you have to pay an electrician $2,000 to $5,000 or
Put a new
$4,000.
sub panel in and, right.
Plus you
Yeah.
gotta dig up, I mean, it's gotta go underground, so you have to dig up underneath your
Right.
yard again and get out of the garage and underneath pavement. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a huge amount of work.
Right. So in that sense, I'm on the side of mandating stubbed out amperage available in garages and
I mean, to
and
your
even in the
point, Mark,
bylaw perhaps too, you know.
to your point, you're saying, hey, we're just trying to get it wired that way. That's, it stops short of requiring that they put a charging facility in, which in my mind could depend on the car that someone has or what they want, but at least it's
Yeah.
wired.
And again, these are regulations, so, you
Right.
know, yeah, I think the stronger the statements, the better.
So I'm for
Mark-
that.
It's not like it's going to get overturned by the Attorney General.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And Mark's suggestion is really a smart one, because what it does is those outlets are really expensive. So
Yeah.
it takes that cost off of the contractor,
Right.
and as long as you stub up and make that potential wires
Mhm.
there and just cap it off, then the person can do it themselves. And I think that's a great idea, Mark.
yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
And I have to admit, aligned with that, I would be inclined to really have a discussion at the bylaw level about this topic. Because since we're going to be going to the town meeting with something probably for the AAN to adjust the AAN, let's talk about energy and, you know, find out exactly what they did in Newton and you know, how it could relate to us. You know, we could decide, no, we don't want to do it, but I think we should really have that conversation at the bylaw level too.
Well, we certainly need to do the follow-up from our discussion with Arnie. And I think, and the selectmen are already recruiting for that committee, correct? Yeah.
Right,
yep.
right.
You all voted me on it already.
That's right.
John's on it.
But I don't know, I haven't heard anything, so I don't know.
You
what
haven't heard
the next
anything
steps
yet?
are.
So
So
I'll
And this-
get some members.
And
Malcolm,
the
do you know,
ZBA voted
The
somebody on
ZBA
too.
voted to appoint somebody too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
who'd they vote on?
Malcolm, do you know if a letter
Michael.
was sent to somebody about my vote to that, or? I don't know who, was the selectman that's gonna stand up the
It's
committee?
the selectmen will do the official creating.
I read
that.
it. I read it in the minutes of the selectmen that was recently posted. So I think they announced that you were appointed.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they did?
I think
Oh.
so, like the
I didn't
last
know.
meeting.
Okay.
Oh. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
so
didn't
they
send, we
know-
didn't send the select board anything. I will follow up with Jesse,
Yeah.
see if anything was, I know that if there hasn't been, we'll send them a letter tomorrow, I guess.
Okay,
I thought they mentioned 2 people that were on it.
Mhm.
Was it a ZBA member too? Maybe Michael?
It was someone I didn't know.
Michael now?
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
all right, so to try to wrap up this section for Malcolm, we're pretty much saying we want some kind of language that they need to get educated about the new mass law coming and various options. We want them to come to us with a proposal with their application of how they're going to contribute to that. And we want basically what Mark is suggesting, that they wire garages to at least be able to easily be outfitted with a charging station.
So I'm thinking that the section on the sort of energy efficiency plan would probably warrant its own section unless I could
I
think of
think so.
anything. And then
I
I
think
think
so.
the capacity, that the 240 volt capacity for a charging station could probably get wrapped in with the Well, no, actually, I guess the garage standards here are just for cottage dwellings. so
I
they
know,
should
that's the
probably
problem.
apply to the whole
Yeah,
development, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
All right. Any other topics that you think we didn't get to discuss that we should be thinking about adding?
I just have a question right now about what you just said, Malcolm, is, so we are only putting these general rules into the rules and regs, and the cottage AAN, if we're requiring that, we're not putting it in the document?
Oh, no, it's for all of the units in the area,
Meaning-
not just the,
There's a, right, the cottage section is a section within the AAN rules and regs.
yeah.
So we want to make sure that where this goes applies to the whole thing.
Okay,
Not
okay.
just-
Right,
I just,
right.
I was. I
Yeah,
thought
no,
we
it's
were-
what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I
Anything
know, I
else?
keep forgetting that too. He was pointing to that section. I keep forgetting a lot of this is focusing on cottage, but it's more than that.
Right. All right, well, I mean, honestly, we made, between last week and this week, I think we made a lot of progress faster than I thought we would. And I
Yeah.
know we've got topics from tonight that we want to revisit and kind of given homework to Jesse and Malcolm. Sorry about that.
That's what we're here for.
But I think it's great progress.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we're supposed to cover, Malcolm, or anything else on anybody's mind?
I gave Karen 3 restaurants to think about to take Lenny to.
Oh, yeah. One was the cider.
One is the barn at Carver Hill. If anybody's been there, they have it. It's a new pizza and tap room in their big barn, and they've got wooden tables set up, and you can be inside or out, and they do like hot oven pizza and hard cider, and I don't know, it's pretty nice. And you
This
look
is
out
like
on the
Carver
Wait
orchard.
a minute, Carver Hill.
Wait,
here?
I don't mean Carver Hill,
Oh.
sorry.
I don't remember you sending me that.
They're waiting to get an entertainment permit. No, Carlson Orchards in Harvard.
Ah,
So that's nice. And then my family and I did a going away thing for one of the kids, and we went over to Welly's in Marlboro. And they do have some outdoor seating, but it's really loud and right on the road.
Yeah.
But inside they did have like every other table. There was plenty of room. And we were a party of 6, and it looked like, they had a few options for that, and they have a pretty extensive menu. It was okay. And I forget what the other one was, Kithenkin, I think. But Carlson seems good. Like if you got a nice evening up there, no, just an idea.
Yeah, it's something different.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah.
thanks, Nancy.
Is it outdoor or inside?
It's both, but you're in a barn with the big, huge doors open on the 2 sides, or you can be out on this little gravel area. It's nice.
I might sound like a wimp, but the mosquitoes are so awful this year. It's just
I know,
the
but
thought of
you know
even
what?
being anywhere near outside at night, it just.
I think
right
these
to me.
places have sprayed or something, because
Yeah.
you can't have, I never saw any bugs there. We were kind of around there twice. It's an idea.
So I was at Slater's the other day and people were sitting outside and they were all picking up their food and coming inside because of the bugs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then you better do an afternoon or a weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I could do an afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't we think about, we haven't really even talked about that. I mean, how about you, John?
Malcolm and Jesse can make up their time on a weekend.
Yeah, I probably can.
Are you busy, Mark? You're
Oh.
busy during the week, right?
I tend to be busy during the week, yes.
Well, I think it'll be hard for some of you working people
Yeah.
during the week. Could do weekend though, or how long are you in Maine? You were gonna come home in September, but
I
that's what we
was, and then my
extended, yeah.
company kind of walked back on their comeback plan. as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And you said, oh, bummer.
Hey, you know what I saw on the news this morning? This was like a national thing, is that Rhode Island has 17% of its population testing positive for this COVID. And they're right up there with like Mississippi and Alabama and stuff.
Wow.
It made me laugh, you know, it's just, I mean, I know that I looked at it like 2 or 3 times and I was really surprised to see it. But, you know, it's just something to think about.
So I
Gotta
was
be a
home last week.
17% positive rate, not 17% of the population, right? That would be nuts. That would be like
Yeah, positive rate, yeah. Yeah.
true plague scale. if-
Yeah.
17% of the population is positive.
Yeah.
I've essentially been coming home once a month. I was home last week.
Well, we're here. Didn't you see us on the news on Channel 7 on Tornado
Yes.
Day?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
tornado, right, yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if we scheduled something, you know, we could certainly plan it when I'm home. And I mean, day is tough, but if we plan it in advance, I mean, I just wonder if we plan an early dinner
Or a lunch, guys. Do
Yeah,
a
we-
lunch.
or lunch, then we can kind of
Yeah.
avoid
Mhm.
the bugs.
Okay.
But thanks for the tip, Nancy. I just went to Carlson Orchards. Who knew they had that many hard ciders?
I know. And a pizza oven.
Wow.
Good.
All right.
I have one
Okay.
last little thing.
Okay.
Lori and John, I know you're both mostly online with like board stuff. I put a copy of the updated zoning bylaw in everyone's physical packets this week, and I realized, of course, that means you and John didn't get one. Would that be helpful to you? Would you like a physical copy of the zoning bylaw?
I would.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
would.
cool. I'll just put those in the little folder that the packets are in the gray cabinet out front
Okay.
pretty soon
Okay.
here, and you
Yeah,
can pick
cool.
them up whenever.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Right.
doing that, Malcolm.
Yep.
Yeah.
no
I
problem.
appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask you?
I
a
move
quick-
that we adjourn. Oh, go ahead.
Malcolm, I could ask you a quick question after the
Sure.
meeting? Thanks.
Okay.
All right. I heard a motion to adjourn. Everyone.
Second.
Second.
Aye, aye.
Bye.
Okay.
All right. Good night. Bye,
Thanks,
Malcolm.
everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.